Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more months than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident. Good day, and welcome to Give a Heck. On today's show, I welcome Barby Ingle. Barby has received more than 20 accolades for her work in the chronic pain community over the years. She is a chronic pain educator, patient advocate, and president of the International Pain Foundation, as well as a motivational speaker and best-selling author on pain topics. She herself has been a pain patient since developing endometriosis in 1997 and reflex sympathetic dystrophy in 2002. One in three people, are affected with chronic pain condition in North America. The cost of chronic pain is $635 billion in lost wages, productivity, and provider fees. As a chronic pain patient, pain educator, author, speaker, and cheerleader of hope, Barby has an action plan to help those in chronic pain and their caregivers. I'd like to welcome you to the show, Barby. Thanks so much for agreeing to come on and share with us some of your life journey.
Thank you, Dwight. I am so happy to be here and to be sharing with you and your audience. And I look forward to connecting with everybody and having a great conversation that hopefully people can get some takeaways and use those as actionable actions in their own life to better their life.
That's fantastic. I look forward to this conversation. As my podcast is named Give a Heck, that's the type of people I want on. People that are going out and gone through their own strife and tribulations, and now they're out giving a heck about others and making a difference in, with humankind. So congratulations on that. So Barby, one of the things I focus on is a person's origin story. And the reason the origin story is so important to me is, bottom line, our lives are a culmination of everything that's happened to us from our earliest recollections, from our environments, from what we've experienced in our lives. So can you do me a favor, Barby, and tell me what key things from your childhood to adulthood that led you to where you're at currently?
Well, I was born in Bangkok, Thailand, and I got to spend my first 4 years in Thailand. So I have a little bit of a recollection of that, but it really starts, my memories really start when we came back to America, or when I came to America. At 4 years old, and started elementary school immediately. I went into kindergarten, and I was having troubles in school, and I was going to a private school, and they kept telling my mom I was lazy and I didn't care and wasn't trying, and I absolutely cared and was trying, and I am a rule follower even to this day. And yet I wasn't able to succeed in kindergarten to their standards at that school. And my mom got me tested. My mom and dad got me tested and found out I had a learning disability. And they moved me into, they did pass me to first grade. They moved me into a public school. That public school didn't want to put out the resources. They did not have a teacher there that had lessons for people with learning disabilities. So they didn't want to acknowledge the learning disability. And my mom actually decided, I'm going to sue for that. And we are going to get a teacher that not only helps my daughter, but helps other children as well. So I started, my mom sued and won the lawsuit. And I started in school learning disability classes, as well as every single summer till I graduated high school, I had to go to summer school. And so it kind of sucked that all the kids were out playing and I was in school all year round. But I think it did help me to where I am now, because in first grade, that principal told me, his name was Mr. Kite, and he told me that I would never graduate high school, to not even think about college. And that was in first grade. Like, how do you tell someone that young that they will never succeed? And I really didn't know what that meant, but it kind of stuck in my mind. And I ended up graduating high school. I got to participate in any sports I wanted. I was also active in Girl Scouts, through Brownies, which is the young form of Girl Scouts, all the way through Cadets, which is equivalent to Eagle Scout. And I earned that. And then I also was a competitive cheerleader, sideline cheerleader, gymnast. I lettered in gymnastics, and also did track team and soccer. So pretty much I was out there being active and living my best life, I guess, as a child. And then I graduated. On the day of graduation, that principal that told me in first grade that I would never graduate high school, to not even think about college, apologized to me and said, I made a mistake. You actually graduated high school. Congratulations. And I said, as a matter of fact, I'm moving on to college. And then I proceeded to go through college, and I was the first in my family to graduate in 4 years. And my final semester, I got a 4.0, which was the best I ever did in school, ever in my life. And it was also the year, or the semester, that I tried to do 21 credit hours, because I wanted to graduate on time and I needed 21 hours to graduate. So I took the most classes that semester, including a master level class, and still graduated that semester with a 4.0. So I really like that. Straight out of college, when I know I've got a story for you. So if you can interrupt me at any time.
Keep on going.
Straight out of college, I went to go get married, because that's what you're supposed to do, right? Marry the person you are with the longest. So I left school, moved to Washington State, and was getting married in a month. And I happened to be on a walk and saw the local cheerleaders, and they were horrible. And I said, I got an idea. I didn't really know what I was going to do. I got my college degree in social psychology. I didn't really know what I was going to do. I didn't really have a plan or a purpose, except for to get married and be a good wife. And said, they need help. And I went and got a business license and started my own cheer and dance training company. That next week, I went and set it all up and did all the paperwork and made little flyers for advertisements, which now looking back, they were like ridiculous marketing. But I did it and started getting hired by local schools, including that school, and started training the cheerleaders up in the state of Washington. Went to the state board and said, hey, your coaches need safety training. They need all these things that they're lacking. And I can put a program together for them, for you. And they said, great. And I said, and I'm also going to start doing competition cheerleading here. And they said, never in our state. We've never had it in the past. They'll never have it in the future. And I said, okay, you don't have to have it, but I'm going to do it. And went ahead and held my first cheer competition that year. And we only had 4 teams in the whole state that signed up. And it grew from 4 teams to hundreds of teams and thousands of spectators in the 12 years that I ran that company. And the next year after that, I got hired as the first head cheer and dance training coach at Washington State University. And up to that point, it was just a bunch of students that were living their best life and just saying, hey, I want to be a cheerleader. Okay, let's put some skirts on. It really wasn't organized. Or they tried to be organized, but they didn't have a coach, and they didn't have a budget, and they didn't have funding, and all the things that go into making a collegiate athletic team. And I came in, they hired me, I came in, set that up, and was able, by the time I left, we were 5th in the country, nationally ranked in just 8 years. And they had multiple uniforms. They had a structured program with student athletic grants. And And I also had a high level of diversity on my team, as well as held my cheerleaders, my student athletes, to a higher standard with grades than the other athletes in the athletic department. They had to have a 2.0 and my athletes had to have a 2.5. And so I've got lots of benefits for them. So I was super proud, at the top of my game. And then I got sick. And by sick, I mean an illness, a chronic illness. And I didn't know what it was. And first, as you said earlier, I had endometriosis, but that wasn't stopping me. I was still able to go through life and still able to coach, even though I had to go through surgeries and procedures and medications. Then one day I was in a minor car accident on the way to work. And that minor car accident triggered an autoimmune disease in my body, and my body started attacking itself. And the more I fought, as athletes do, to maintain my physical abilities and my mental health, the harder it got to go through life. And it actually ended up taking 3 years to get a proper diagnosis and 43 doctors. My 43rd doctor was the first one to stop and look at me and say, I think I know what it is, and I want you to go and research it and study it. And that's kind of how I became an advocate. I said, I don't want to do the procedure. I've been told to have my rib out. I've been told all these things. I ended up in a wheelchair, and from soon after I started doing all these procedures, up for even after I got my diagnosis. I was in a wheelchair for 7 years. So 3 years before and 4 years after I got the diagnosis. And I was told, you'll never cheer again. You'll never be athletic again. You'll never do any of these things. And for me, cheerleading was what I had done since I was 4 years old. To tell me I would not be a cheerleader was devastating. And I started to have to rethink my life and rebuild my life, going from the top of the world, flying around in jets, running all these cheer camps and dance camps and having notoriety. It really meant something to me. And I worked hard to achieve it and have it and keep it. And then all of a sudden it was taken away by something that was unknown and sometimes not believed. And because I didn't have a name for the disease, which turned out to be reflex sympathetic dystrophy. So reflex is anything in your body that's automatic, goes haywire. Sympathetic is your nervous system. And that feels like someone put lighter fluid in my veins and caught it on fire. And it's really hard to put that burning fire feeling out. But on top of that, I also was having random pain, like bone pain and electrical pains and shooting pains, and started having trouble digesting food, which caused GI pain. And over time, it progressed and got worse and worse and worse up until 4 years after my diagnosis. So this brings us at 2009. And I had met a doctor in 2007 and got on his wait list, and finally got to see him in 2009 and get a treatment that helped me. I went into the hospital in a wheelchair, and I walked out 7 days later after treatment. And I walked kind of teeter-tottered and funny. I do have a video on YouTube. I'm like walking very methodically down the hall to leave the hospital. And that was kind of the rebirth of me, and being an advocate and being able to talk and speak and help other people through the process. At that point, I had $1 million in medical bills. I had lost everything. I went, like I said, from the top of the world to food stamps and had to build back up. Also in that time, my marriage fell apart, but God had a better plan for me. And my new neighbor, the doctors in Washington State said they didn't know how to help, and they sent me to Arizona. So I moved in that process. And my new neighbor is now my husband. But when I met him, he worked from home. He was also an entrepreneur. And he said that if I paid him, he would drive me to and from doctor appointments and physical therapy. So I was paying him to drive me around. And during that time we were talking. And then one day he asked me out on a date, which for me was like, I'm at the lowest point in my life. I lost my marriage. I lost my job, my livelihood, my company. And why would anybody ever want to date me? And he saw the entrepreneur in me and the person that wasn't giving up and was fighting to make a life again. And he said, just because you don't have good health doesn't mean that you don't have all the other things on my list that I was looking for. you check every box but one. Let's do this together. So we kind of got my diagnosis together, and started going to treatments, and I didn't have to pay him anymore because I was dating him, and which was nice. And we went through the whole process together, and he went through everything with me except for the physical pain. It was us on this journey together. So it really, my whole life changed and changed again. And now if I lost everything again in life, I would not be afraid, because I've lost everything and lived through it. And now I see life moment to moment, and what can I do to make this moment be the best moment ever? Because time is, you get 24 hours in a day. I don't see it like that. I say, like, I got to do all these things today, even the hard ones. I got to do them. I chose to do it. I chose to spend my time and effort and energy doing what I'm able to do. And it really just changed my perspective on life and living, and finding ways to pay bills when you literally are $1 million in debt, and don't have much in the way of physical ability that I relied on my whole life. The physical ability instead of the mental, studying your books with dyslexia, it's kind of hard. And in that process, I started talking to a tape recorder, and actually ended up, the person who has trouble reading ended up publishing my first book. And now I have 9 books published, and one's a bestseller with over 20,000 copies sold. And for someone with a learning disability, that's pretty incredible. And an accomplishment that I took those tape recordings and turned them into printed text, and then created a book out of that for my first book. And that first book is my bestseller. So, and then I've had more things to say, or there's lessons that I keep getting asked similar questions over and over and over again. And so I have put that into a book, because it's easier to get that information disseminated out to the masses, or to more people, than to have them find me or keep sharing my story. It's just another opportunity to get my story out, but also give actionable items that other people can take if they're having similar challenges to the ones that I faced over all of this time.
Wow.
So that's my life origin story.
That is awesome. There's so many different stories I can imagine throughout what you skimmed over.
Yes.
You could keep me in thrall for hours. And I can't believe, though, I keyed, when I was writing my notes here, keyed on a few things. And the reason I bring these up is because in life, it is so easy for adults to crush a child. And that principle telling you that is a crushing thing, but it showed your tenacity already at a very young age to not listen to that person. So did you have mentorship within your life, like a parent or somebody that just, did you talk to them? Do you remember if you talked to them about it and said, hey, you know what, this principal said this about me? Or was it just internalized and you were just a tenacious kid and able to
it was internalized. It was internalized. And I could see, like, the kids were out playing, like, especially that first summer, like, even my own siblings were like, where were you? They're thinking back, like, where were you? And I'm sitting there saying, I was in summer school looking out the window watching you play on the playground. And, and so I just internalized it. And I did have a few years of counseling, but I didn't ever relate it back to what the principal had told me. I just related it to, I want to be normal, whatever. Now I'm like, define normal. What is normal? There is no normal. I was making my own normal. But that's kind of how the therapy, the cognitive therapy, helped as a child, was defining my normal, and that I'm okay. It, like, anybody, even now, people can say you're this or you're that, and I'm like, okay, you'll know. Like, I'm at peace also with we will all find out when we go to heaven what was right and what was wrong on all the things that we were so sure about on this earth. So
100%.
So I'm not worried about, and I guess from early childhood, when he said that to me, I did internalize, and it did affect me and maybe pushed me internally. but I didn't really tell other people, like, he said this about me. It wasn't that. It was just, I was driven to say, well, I can still do things. I might not be able to do that well. I might not be able to read well, but I can find other things that I can do, and gymnastics and cheerleading and modeling and Girl Scouts and soccer and track, just put me on the track and I'm just running in circles. It's like the most boring thing. And I hear other people say, like, I can't run in circles. I have to like see new things as I run. And I'm like, I could just be there running and running and running and running until the coach says stop.
Yeah.
And so I guess that is who I am, but it's also, I have never had that feeling of correcting somebody if they think something ill of me, like I'm stupid or whatever because I have a learning disability. I'm okay if they think that, because when we pass away or we move on to heaven or wherever you go, you'll find out in the blink of an eye. And I've had a near-death experience going through all my health challenges, and I saw my life flash before me. It was like 1,000 pictures with 1,000 words. We'll all know one day what we were right or wrong about, and it'll be in this life for the next.
Yeah.
So
I
I don't have to convince anybody.
Well, exactly. Unfortunately, the words of adults to young people, though I know there'll be listeners or people watching this, they'll know people, or maybe they've been that person, that their whole adult life in their mind, that story keeps on playing and begin playing in the background of their subconscious, and it's holding them back. Don't let people's opinion of you become your reality, is what
Right.
you did. You didn't let other people's opinion, that one person's opinion, slow you down, including all the way up.
I did slow myself down though. And I learned in that when I did get sick, I learned a lesson, and it was my whole being, my whole I am was tied into being a cheerleader and being the physical cheerleader that I was. And now when I'm having a bad moment or a bad time, I have a written piece of paper where I've written all the things I am, and, bubbly, bright, tenacious, all of my I ams. And I have that piece of paper and I can go back and look at it and remind myself. And I think that if I had that earlier in life, it would have been very helpful when my whole life collapsed, because I thought just work hard and you'll succeed. But I was working hard and something outside of my self took it away. And then what am I? And I felt like in that particular moment, I was nothing. It wasn't because someone else told me I was nothing. It was because I felt like I did the work. Now I lost it all.
But you've never given up though. So throughout, listeners,
right.
if you need to rewind and listen to her origin story, it didn't even matter though. Your marriage fell apart. You found somebody. You were still pushing forward in life. Obviously, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was difficult. It was hard on you, but you never gave up. And so many people in life stop giving a heck about their lives. And it can start right from our earliest recollections and origins of a principal or a family member or a parent telling us that we're stupid or we're not good enough. And it happens consistently in our society today. So I want the people listening to this to understand that it doesn't matter where you are in your life. You can always pivot. You can change. Maybe you're not tenacious like Barbie and can just do it. You have it internalized and you need to find mentorship and coaching. That's okay. It's okay to have to lean on others, to have them have faith in you until you can have faith in yourself. So I appreciate you sharing so much great information.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I said, having the faith in yourself is sometimes hard. That's for me why the I am, especially having a major loss. But any small thing can compound and look bigger than it is through time, as you feel like I failed at that. Now I failed at this. It's okay to fail. I'm not afraid to fail. And as long as I'm alive, I still have a chance. To me, it's not a failure. I have a chance. It's like a 0.5% chance. It's still a chance. I can still do it.
Well, you have gratitude. You have gratitude for the fact you haven't. Yeah, you have a life. Like most people don't. I do that myself every day. I this morning when I got up, before I even put my foot on the floor, I'm laying in bed doing gratitude exercises. I'm
Yes.
grateful for the fact that I was given another shot, that I opened my eyeballs up, and people, they don't get it. If you don't have appreciation for, no matter what strife we go through and pain, I have chronic health issues myself. I have debilitating spine disease called scoliosis. I've suffered with it, and it continues to get worse as I get older into my 50s. And I've been told there's so many different things by the medical community, just like you, that I wouldn't accomplish, that I wouldn't be able to do this. Oh, you have asthma on top of that, you have this and that. And if I would have listened to everybody, I'd be in a rabbit hole the rest of my life and on food stamps. I would have never accomplished being a single dad of 5 kids. I wouldn't have 4 grandkids. I wouldn't have this podcast if I had let the noise of the rest of the world and society define who I was going to be. And that's what I see from you, and kudos to you. I look forward to diving into more stuff here. So we're going to go on to the next thing. I really appreciate you though. Thanks so much. So Barbie, you are a chronic pain educator, patient advocate, and president of the International Pain Foundation. What are some of the things you educate on in regards to helping those with chronic pain?
We do education on disease-specific information, as well as there's some underlying themes that come up no matter what disease you have, such as how to talk to your medical providers, how to find the right medical providers, how to get the proper lab tests that you need, how to get access to the care that you need. If there's a certain medication or there's an upcoming clinical trial, we talk about getting into clinical trials, what to look for, what to expect. Not every clinical trial is right for every person. And sometimes a person is just not right for clinical trials in general. How to deal with your medical bills. As I said, I had over $1 million in medical bills and no way to create an income. And I have found ways to negotiate and to find mistakes in my medical bills. JACO, our Joint Commission for Hospitals, says that 8 out of 10 medical bills has a mistake. Well, if you look at that and then you find out insurance, if there's a mistake on your medical bill, insurance will not properly cover the option that you need, that your doctor's saying you need, because there's this mistake. It could be a spelling in your name, your date of birth, your application, your insurance number. There's so many things that you have to check, and you also have to check, like if it's a hospital visit, did they give you everything in a bundle, or did they separate out each charge? Because some things can only be billed in a bundle, and so it would have been covered had they bundle billed it, but because they didn't bundle bill it, now you're looking at a larger bill for your personal responsibility. Going back through my records, I paid thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars that I didn't need to pay prior to finding out how to read a medical bill, how to read an insurance statement. These are the types of things that we teach through our webinars, as well as have resources available on our website that are free and open access to anybody who is looking for these types of things to go and get that information. Find a provider app. We also have many different programs. A lot of times people who have a chronic disease will isolate themselves, and we want people to be active and a part of society in whatever level they come to society with. In physical and mental ability, we want them to participate fully with their own abilities. So giving them those activities and public awareness campaigns to let people know there is hope, because there is help. All you have to do is reach out and seek it, and you can get what you need. And here's some of the resources, which we have a plethora of resources, not just throughout the United States, but also we've worked with other countries. We've passed legislation here in the United States, as well as Australia. We've worked with patients from 14 different countries and really made a difference. We've in this past 2 years, we've worked with the country of Uganda with their leadership. And we have a project called November. It reaches around the world. In 2021, we reached 60 million interactions in 1 month, which to me was incredible on social media. How far it's grown from an idea back in 2009 when I saw Pinktober on the plane and everything was pink, and I was like, I want to paint the world orange. And putting that project together on a plane, going from Washington, D.C. to Phoenix. I wrote it on a napkin and came up with the ideas and the name November and started it that year. And it's grown from nothing to 60 million interactions. Pretty cool. The Uganda government is actually treating patients, and the patients that were part of our November program that we co-did with them in Uganda, they sent us the medical records of all the patients, which in America, that's like you would never, the HIPAA violation to send medical records outside of the closed circle. And they started sending all this material. I'm like, no, please don't share we believe you that you treated these patients. You do not need to send us their medical information to prove it. So, but things like that, like every country is different, and how they treat patients is different, and learning the different systems around the country as to how to get better care for that particular patient in need in that country has been really a learning experience for me, and beneficial to the patients that I'm able to network with and help along the way.
Wow. You've got a lot of different things that people can benefit from you. And the number one thing that resonates with me, and that what most people need in life, is an advocate, right? So you definitely are somebody that is an advocate to individuals, organizations, countries, as you mentioned. It's sad though that in today's day and age with technology, that you even have to worry about medical bills being presented properly, whether or not insurance will cover it, whether it's a bundle or non-bundle. That's sad. So anybody out there in corporations or tied into the medical community, wake up, make it easy on people. Life's hard enough as it is. If they have chronic health issues, chronic pain, they don't need to also have quiet desperation in their brain and their mindset when they go to bed at night, whether or not they can afford to pay even the payment on a medical bill, plus they still have all their health issues. So that's definitely something that needs to be addressed. And, good for you for going out there and being an advocate for people. So I imagine many are ignored or not taken serious in regards to their chronic pain, as you mentioned. How can anyone else besides you be a patient advocate through the trying times they're experiencing? If there's a family member or it's themselves, how can they be their own advocate?
For me, I had to go through it to learn. There wasn't really a lot of resources available. Now there's resources available, and some of them I created. But it really starts with standing up for yourself and being the one to say, okay, I am not comfortable doing the treatment option that this provider is presenting me, or I want to take the time to research it, and know that you have that ability to stop and pay attention and ask questions and research. Unless you're in a life or death immediate situation, take the time to think about, if I do this today, how will it impact my tomorrow? Like you said earlier, I'm always moving forward. I want to keep moving forward. Even if it's at a snail's pace, I want to keep going forward. That's kind of what we need to do with healthcare. And healthcare is working as designed, poor. We have to scrap the healthcare system and start over and come up with a better way to do what we have. And instead, what's happening is we're compounding all of the healthcare system with new options and new choices when we haven't taught people how to be an advocate yet. So if you want to be an advocate for yourself and for others, stop, get organized, pay attention to what's going on. Realize that healthcare works best in a team approach. My doctors, I've got them to talk to not only me, but to each other. That doesn't happen a lot in healthcare. It's something that we have to look into doing and saying, hey, you have 3 or 4 patients in combination with this other doctor, in relation with this other doctor. Why don't you have like a monthly coffee meeting where you can talk about us and say, hey, what could help better? What are we missing? What did you see something that I didn't see? And what else could be helpful for this patient and going forward? So that's what providers can do. Patients, if you get organized, start with your own medical records. Mine are in 3-ring binders that are 3 inches each. And if I stand them up, they're almost as tall as me at 5 feet tall. So what I did is I organized them by provider and also by date under each provider tab. And then I go through them and read them and make sure they're correct. I'm able to go through my records, highlight them when I need, say, a certain medication or an upcoming procedure. I can do the prior authorization for my provider, which saves them time. They love it. And I'm able to go back and say, in 2006, you saw this. Should we go back and check on that mass and see if it's grown any? Like, we haven't looked in 10 years. Should we look again? I've been on this medication for 5 years now. Is there any new medications out there that are available? Having my own medical records, and now with the patient portals, it's a lot easier to do than when I first started. But even now with the patient portals, I print it, I read it, I make sure there's no mistakes. If there is, I correct those in my record, and make sure that I'm able to advocate for myself first. Put your own oxygen on, figure it out, get organized, learn how to read your statements. Even if you're in pain, you still need to learn how to read your statements so that you don't get overwhelmed by the medical bills and that aspect of it, so that you can continue to get the care that you need throughout the process, whether you're making payments monthly or you have enough money to pay it all off at once. It's important to stay on top of it and know where you stand, both financially as well as physically, mentally, emotionally.
Yeah, wow. There's lots of awesome nuggets of information you gave. I would highly recommend those that are overwhelmed by how much you need to do, because obviously Barbie makes it sound easy, but I guarantee when you first started figuring it out, it wasn't easy. You had to go through strife, tribulations, feel helpless. So I would recommend those that are listening, watching this, reach out to Barbie, right? Reach out to somebody that's how life is. Somebody like Barbie's figured it out. Why would you want to start reinventing the wheel when you can reach out to somebody that can help you learn how to advocate for yourself by taking you through the process? It'd be worth your time, it'd be worth your energy and money than to try to figure it out yourself. Because really, at the end of the day, you need to put your mental health prioritized over trying to figure stuff out yourself. And that's the thing. People try figuring things out themselves. They get on that hamster wheel, they get overwhelmed, and they fall back into the rabbit hole. So,
yes.
Reach out to Barbie. One
of my favorite things that I've learned in life is something I learned in college. Everything you need to know is in a book.
Yeah.
So use your resources, use other people, not in a bad way term, you collect the resources, pull them in, ask for help. Hey, can I have a half an hour meeting with you and pick your brain on this? I talk to patients daily to help them navigate the health system for whatever challenges that they're facing, which we're all going to face different challenges. And they can come and say, hey, I really don't know how to do this, or my doctor said XYZ, and how do I get them to understand A and B are really important to me as well. And so we can go through those types of conversations as a mentor and as a coach and an advocate. I can walk patients through that. There's other people out there like me doing what I do that can help you. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And when it does get overwhelming, break it down. Go in smaller pieces and make the action items smaller. You might be moving slower, but that's okay as long as you're moving forward. And if you have to take a day to lay in bed and rest because you push yourself too hard, don't feel guilt of that. For me, I physically, when I start to feel the guilt or pressure of I'm not doing enough, I take that guilt and place it away from my body. I do a physical action of grabbing the guilt and moving it away from me. And I found that really helpful. But everything we need to know is out there, especially now. Back then, when I was in college, we didn't have a computer system like we have now.
Plethora of internet. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. Your library is all of your resources, your coaches, your mentors, your doctors, your nurses, physical therapists, even your pharmacists. I was having trouble with medication interactions. I gave my pharmacist a list of my medications and said, can you tell me where these process in my body? Because I feel like some of my conditions or symptoms are because I'm overwhelming my body. And it turned out that that's what was happening. So, but having her as my coach and leading me through that helped me see here's where I can cut back, or this medication is interacting with that medication, and let's pick the one that's most important to my physical needs. And so we were able to whittle my medications down, and I could take less medication and have less brain fog and help myself and others more, just breaking it down into smaller pieces that are actionable.
Yeah, the more knowledge we have, the more we can protect ourselves from people that are just writing a script, right? And a lot of doctors do that. Unfortunately, I'm not here to pick on the medical community, but like any profession, it doesn't matter what it is. Even my profession, there's people that are out just to get a paycheck, go to work, go home, get paid. So good for you.
Yeah. Your doctors are part of your team, and they don't know everything. They're practicing medicine. So keep that in mind, that they are practicing, that they have an expertise in one or two, possibly three areas, but they do not necessarily know all the conditions. There's 7,000 rare diseases. They can't know everything in medicine, and they have to choose for their own business to succeed specific areas of interest to themselves as to what they can offer you. So if you are having a struggle with a provider, it might not be the right provider for you. It doesn't mean that provider's bad. It means that they're not the right provider for you. They could be very helpful for other patients and caregivers that are working to improve their lives. Find providers that will work in a team and will work on your team and let you be a co-leader in your team.
Yeah, great advice. So listen up, listeners. Rewind if you miss stuff. Take notes. You're worthy. You're worth the time, right? And again, if it's fearful and it's something that scares you, reach out to people such as Barbie and, as she mentioned, others, and get some direction and focus. The difference between Barbie and you is Barbie's farther on the journey and has put in the effort and work to get where she's at. You can do it, and you can accomplish the same things. So Barbie, 1 in 3 people are affected with chronic pain condition in North America. That is 100 million plus people. What is the root of this character building challenge facing society? Is it somewhat nutrition, exercise, environment, family history, or is it part of all of it?
It's part of all of it. It could be genetics, environment, lifestyle. It all plays a part in how you're doing, and not only as a child. So if you're a parent and you have children, it's really important to teach them, drink plenty of water, watch your posture, things that are preventative in their youth so that they can carry those things into their adulthood, but also so that they are not as exacerbated. If they have something genetic or something lifestyle, environment that they're taking in, it can affect them. I got endometriosis at a younger age, but I did not get RSD until I was 29 years old. I thought I knew what pain was. I thought I knew how to navigate the health system. My mom was a doctor of nursing. I thought that I knew all of these things until it happened to me. And I realized we should have been teaching this to our youth all along, how to talk to a doctor, what you can expect when you go into this medical appointment, how to organize a medical appointment to get what you need out of it. And like Dwight said, I had to learn the hard way. And now I help other patients, because we should not have to go through 43 doctors to get a proper diagnosis, or even 7 doctors, which is the average. It shouldn't be 100 million Americans dealing with a chronic pain condition. It should be far less, but because we do not put these knowledge seeds into our lives at a younger, earlier age, when we can do something about it and make some changes, it exacerbates the symptoms. And when it actually hits your life, it's a lot harder to deal with and be ready for. And it's harder to prepare after it's already started. Like with pain, there's a scale, 1 to 10. What's your pain level? And if you're a level 10 pain, it's really hard to focus, to improve your life. It's not impossible. I've done it. But it is a lot harder than to say your pain's at a 2. That's your body starting to tell you something's wrong. You know, oh, my knee has this ache in it, and I'm going to go jogging 5 miles a day. And all of a sudden now you have a torn ligament because you pushed your knee past that point of, hey, something's wrong, pay attention. It's really important to learn the knowledge and plant the seeds so that when you are at a level pain 10, that you have the resources around you, or you know where to get the things that you need help with available to you. And so same thing with that pain scale. It's a lot easier in life as you're younger to prepare and learn and know that these resources exist and where to go look for them once you are in that situation. So you're not trying to do it while you're also living with a chronic illness.
Yeah, there's so many different things that a person has to worry about to tackle most things in life. But unfortunately,
one of my favorite things that I've done the last few years, even as a pro at this point, an expert, I have found new tools. And one of them was a PGX tool. And I think that the sooner you can get a PGX pharmacogenomics test in life, the better off you'll be throughout your entire life. It tells you the study of your personal genetics to all FDA approved medications. And in doing that, you never have to have experiences like, I'm allergic to this penicillin and I take it, now I'm anaphylactic and I can't breathe. You know, before you ever take it, if you get the test before you take the medicine, if that medication is going to work for you or not. And that has been one of the things that changed my life in the last few years, getting that pharmacogenomics testing and saying, I knew it. I knew I was allergic to that. And some things, I had anaphylactic shock. So I knew that I was allergic, but other things caused other symptoms that weren't necessarily like life-threatening symptoms, but made it harder to live. So make sure you find out what tools are out there and that you give yourself access to them as soon as you can.
Sounds fair. So Barbie, one of the things you know, as that I was reading was the cost of chronic pain is $635 billion in lost wages, productivity, and provider fees. And you talked about what an individual can do. What can society as a whole do at its core to lessen the challenge?
Well, I think when a patient presents, some doctors overdo it, some providers underdo it, but as a society, believe the person that's telling you what they're experiencing. And even if they are experiencing something that's mental or in their head, they're still experiencing it. They still need to be acknowledged, and they still need to have an access to resource or help. You might not be the right coach for them. So as a society, if you hear, you know, your Aunt Susie or your neighbor down the street saying, I'm having this challenge and or problem or issue or whatever their trauma they're going through, you might not be the right person, but pay attention to the resources that are presented to you so that you can offer them, hey, you know, it might be good to go and talk to a primary care doctor or a neurologist. Oh, you're having burning pain? Neurologist. You want to see a neurologist. And giving those seeds of information as you go through life to others so that they don't have to go and look it up. Kind of become a coach as you walk through life. And even if you're not the right coach for that person or position, acknowledge that, oh yeah, you're going through something. And you know, it really doesn't matter if it's physical or mental or that type of thing. Just encourage them to find the root of what they're going through and do something about it, that they have the ability to change what they're going through, and be supportive of other people and create humanity, so that more people can get what they need when it's time, when they need the seed can grow into a tree of knowledge for them when they need it.
Yeah. So a lot of people, you know, those listening, not everybody knows everything. Find somebody that's willing to say, hey, I don't know, this is where you need to go, or this is what you need to check out. So, and it can be tough. You might have to go through quite a few people, but you know, at the end of the day,
but believe the person, even if you can't help them, believe them.
Exactly.
That they're experiencing something. Believe they're experiencing what they believe that they're experiencing, you know, and encourage them to get help for whatever it is, whether it's mental or physical, they still need help.
Exactly. So Barbie, if you had to give our listeners one last closing message, what would you tell them in regards to giving a heck and never giving up?
Yes, always. It's important to give a heck. And there's going to be areas that you're pulled in that you connect with as a human. So put your energy into those and recognize when it's not your strength of what you have to offer to other humans, and be willing to say that too. We all don't do everything. We're all not perfect, but there is great reason for hope. Because there is help, just reach out and seek it.
Right on. Thank you for that message. Our time is almost up, and I want to respect our listeners and your time. However, before we end, can you please tell the listeners what's the best way to reach you?
Yes, the best way to reach me is through email, which is Barby, BARBY, at internationalpain.org. All spelled out, internationalpain.org. And or you can call our charity line and ask for me at 480-882-1342, 480-882-1342. And I'm on all of the social medias, and so is International Pain Foundation.
Right on. I'll make sure that's in the show notes, listeners, that you can access at giveaheck.com. And yes, thank you so much for being on the show. So I appreciate everything that you've had to share, and the time of sharing your experience so that others too can learn that it's never too late to give a heck. Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.